The human warrior stumbled over the polished metallic floor, dragging one cuffed wrist behind him as a hovering droid zipped past, bumping into the wall with a squeal of protest. "Smooth," he muttered. "Real smooth. Did they hire toddlers for engineering?" His voice echoed through the corridor, which shimmered with panels of shifting light that made it look like the walls themselves were breathing. The droid hovered back, lights flickering, as though offended by his sarcasm, and beeped nervously before spinning away to patrol a completely empty section of hall. The corridor twisted, impossible angles forming as though the ship had decided to remodel itself mid-flight, and the warrior's stomach lurched in protest. He knew better than to make plans. Navigating alien architecture was like trying to juggle knives while riding a roller coaster. Only the roller coaster occasionally vanished. "At least it's not raining lasers yet," he muttered, glancing around. A beam of soft blue light traced a path across the floor, highlighting his path like some kind of interstellar catwalk. "Great, now I feel fashionable." When they finally reached the throne chamber, the doors hissed open to reveal the alien queen. She stood tall, graceful, her long ears arching upward in elegant curves that framed a face both familiar and alien. Her eyes, glimmering with a strange inner light, widened ever so slightly as she recognized him, a flicker of shock hidden behind a mask of calm authority. The warrior, for his part, froze, trying to remember if he should bow, salute, or wave awkwardly. Hey," he said, finally settling on casual human greeting which sounded far more pathetic than intended. Her lips quirked, a twitch almost like a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, you survived," she said, voice calm but with an undertone that could slice through steel if she wished. The warrior swallowed. "Survival is my specialty," he said, trying for bravado but sounding more like a nervous teenager. He noted her ears twitch, a small gesture that suggested amusement, and dared a half-smile. "Yours, still aerodynamic, I see," he added, because apparently humans never shut up when stressed. The queen's eyes narrowed, but the twitch of her mouth betrayed the faintest humor. "Do humans always insult alien royalty within the first 30 seconds of being captured?" she asked, her tone dry, almost like she was reading a report on absurd behavior. He shrugged. "Some of us, yes. Some of us try to lighten the mood before we die." She raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed, though her ears twitched again, subtly. The chamber itself seemed alive, with floating lights casting shifting shadows and translucent panels that revealed glimpses of distant stars, moving like currents in a galactic river. The warrior's eyes darted from panel to panel, noting how the architecture seemed to defy logic. "Remind me again why anyone built a hallway that folds in on itself," he asked. "No practical purpose whatsoever, just aesthetic." "Torture." She made a slight gesture with a hand that gleamed faintly with iridescent jewelry, and a hovering servant droid skittered forward with a tray of liquid that changed colors like oil on water. "It is aesthetic," she replied, "and also a test. Many who walk these halls lose more than their way. Some lose their sense of self entirely." He eyed the droid suspiciously. "Does it come with a warning label?" "No," she said deadpan. "It is more entertaining this way." He chuckled despite himself, the first spark of humor amid tension. "Entertaining," he echoed. "Well, glad my life amuses someone." She stepped closer, the soft light catching her form, and he noticed details he had not seen before. The subtle shimmer of her skin, like starlight trapped beneath the surface, the way her long ears seemed to listen even when no one spoke. There was power in her posture, grace in every movement, and yet something human in her gaze, something that reminded him of a long-forgotten past. His mind raced. They had met before, years ago, but in circumstances he could only half remember. Dangerous missions, impossible choices, a fleeting connection that neither had understood at the time. "You do not remember me fully," she said quietly, almost teasingly, "and yet you sense familiarity." He rubbed the back of his neck, grimacing. "It's fuzzy, like a dream that kicks you awake just as it gets interesting, Or maybe a hangover. Could be either. She allowed a short, almost imperceptible laugh, her ears flicking sideways. Flippant even in captivity, she remarked. That human stubbornness never changes. He smirked. Better stubborn than dead, though at this rate I'm betting dead would be faster. Her eyes glimmered, and for a moment the humor dissipated, replaced by an intensity that made the warrior feel the weight of unspoken histories pressing down. Memories flickered in his mind. The first time he saw her, the mission gone wrong, a decision he made that had haunted him ever since. And yet here she was, not a memory but a living presence, a reminder that the past had not released them. The queen extended a hand, the gesture more formal than threatening, and he hesitated before taking it. "So," she said softly, "here we are again. But tell me, why now?" He let out a sigh, shaking his head. "I wish I had an epic answer," he said. "Mostly, I think your droids are bad at directions." Her laughter was light, but it carried the weight of galaxies and old grudges. "Perhaps," she said, "or perhaps you are exactly where you are meant to be." The warrior frowned. "That sounds ominous, very ominous." She tilted her head, ears twitching. "Ominous is often entertaining, and entertaining is essential." A beep sounded, and one of the hovering droids tripped over its own circuitry, spinning in circles before colliding with the wall. The warrior pointed. "See, even your loyal servants think this is funny." She let out a small, genuine laugh, a sound both melodic and strange. "Perhaps," she admitted, "the universe has a sense of humor after all." As the droid whirled helplessly, the warrior realized something strange. Despite the capture, despite the danger, despite the weight of history pressing between them, the moment felt oddly familiar, almost like coming home to a place he had never truly known. And in that realization, he found a spark of hope, or at least, a spark of survival, with just enough humor to keep the cosmos from swallowing him whole. The warrior followed the queen through a twisting passageway that seemed to bend and stretch like a living thing, lights flickering above in patterns that made him dizzy and slightly nauseous. "You know," he said, rubbing his temples, "most people just give directions. Some even hand out a map. But here, I feel like I'm navigating a cosmic funhouse designed by someone who hates humans." The queen tilted her head, long ears flicking to the side, and allowed a faint smile. "Perhaps," she said softly, "it is meant to challenge your perception. Or perhaps it is simply amusing to watch you stumble." He groaned, trying to steady his steps as the floor shifted beneath him in subtle waves. "Amusing, huh? I'm the amusement. Great. I'll send a postcard to my mom." She let out a laugh, low and melodic, that seemed to resonate along the walls. "Humor is a necessary armor even in the presence of destiny," she said, her voice teasing yet layered with unspoken meaning. He snorted. "Destiny armor, huh? Does it come in different colors or just my usual shade of bad luck?" They reached a chamber where holographic panels flickered to life, projecting scenes from years ago. The warrior froze, staring at the younger version of himself standing beside the queen, both of them focused and tense, weapons in hand, but with laughter shared between them in a rare moment of levity. "Well, that's awkward," he muttered, watching himself fumble with a laser rifle. "I look like an idiot." She arched an eyebrow, ears twitching in amusement. "You have always looked like an idiot at times, even when you were brilliant. But it made you memorable." He squinted at the images. "I remember this mission," he said quietly. "We were supposed to retrieve the Zentari crystal and," his words faltered. "The memory was clouded, details missing. I thought I did it right, but everything went sideways. I thought you hated me after that." She let a soft chuckle escape. "Hate is too simple a word for what I felt. Frustration, perhaps, and curiosity. You have a way of surviving situations that should have killed you. It is intriguing." He grimaced. "Intriguing, right, that's one word for it. Most people just call it reckless idiot." She shook her head, a flicker of amusement in her glowing eyes. "You see yourself too harshly. Yet you always believed in your own version of courage, even when it was foolish." The warrior let out a short laugh, courage or stubborn refusal to die gracefully. I'm still not sure which. They moved through corridors that defied gravity, walking along paths that floated above bottomless chasms of stars. The warrior stumbled slightly and she reached out, placing a steadying hand on his arm. You always needed guidance, she said gently, though her eyes sparkled with mischief. Some things never change. He smirked. And apparently some things never fail to annoy me. She tilted her head, her long ears catching stray light like twin blades of elegance. Annoyance is also a constant, it seems, and yet it is charming in a human sort of way. As they reached a small observation deck, the warrior glanced down at the alien city sprawling below. Lights shimmered like a million stars reflected in water, ships zipping through skyways in intricate choreography. I never get used to it, he admitted. Humans would have flattened this place or overcomplicated it with bureaucracy. She laughed softly. We have survived by balance, by understanding patterns, but you humans thrive in chaos. Perhaps that is why you were memorable. A small droid trundled forward, carrying a tray of luminescent food that shifted colors midair. The warrior eyed it warily. Do I eat it, or do I run for my life? She smirked. You may eat or observe. Both choices have merit. He shrugged, picking up a piece with tentative fingers. The taste was strange, sweet and salty, with a hint of something unidentifiable. He made a face. Well, edible, I guess. Not going to win a galactic Michelin star, though. She laughed, ears flicking, and for a moment the tension between them eased. Their conversation drifted back to the past, stories of missions gone wrong and victories barely won, each tale sprinkled with sardonic humor and teasing jabs. Remember the time you tried to pilot a Zentari transport? He asked, and almost blew up half the southern sector. She raised a brow, a hint of mock indignation. I recall your brilliant attempt to disable the security drones. You caused a small containment breach, yet somehow you survived. He smirked. Small containment breach, massive panic, same difference. Through the laughter and teasing, the warrior began to sense the complexity of her feelings. Curiosity, lingering mistrust, and something far deeper, harder to define. And he too felt it. A recognition that despite years apart, despite the chaos that had driven them to opposite sides, there was a thread connecting them that neither time nor distance had severed. The queen paused, placing her hand near the floating holograms, letting them swirl between them like memories made tangible. You see, she said quietly, we have always been connected by choices, by chance, and by survival. He nodded slowly, a faint smile tugging at his lips, and apparently by really bad timing. She let out a laugh that reverberated softly along the chamber walls, her ears twitching with amusement. Perhaps timing is often cruel, and yet it brings the most interesting results. For a moment, the universe felt lighter, despite the dangers still looming outside the walls. The warrior realized that humor had become their shield, their language across the years, and that beneath the teasing and sarcastic quips lay an understanding deeper than words. A bond forged in missions, mistakes, and near-death experiences, tested but unbroken. And in that understanding, both of them felt a flicker of hope that the paths they had once chosen separately might converge once more, in a galaxy where survival, humor, and unexpected alliances were the rules of the game. The warrior stood beside the queen at the edge of the observation platform, the city of light and motion sprawling beneath them, as if the entire world waited for a single, decisive choice. Behind them, the council had gathered, their mechanical attendants buzzing and whirring in precise formation, and the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a laser. Yet, somehow, between the flickering light and the weight of history, the warrior found room to make a sarcastic remark. Do they always look like a swarm of angry glowsticks? He asked, nodding toward the hovering droids, which promptly collided in a cascade of sparks. The queen's ears flicked sideways, and she let out a laugh that was entirely too musical to belong to someone capable of ordering executions. They are entertaining, she admitted, and efficient when not entangled in each other. Their past, once a shadow of tension and regret, now hovered between them like the floating holograms of old missions. I never really understood why you saved me that day, the warrior said, gesturing vaguely toward the images of younger selves locked in a battle that had gone catastrophically wrong. You could have left me to whatever fate decided. She tilted her head, her long ears catching the low, shimmering light. Leaving you was never an option. You were unpredictable, dangerous, and somehow fascinating. Even then, I understood that our paths were tangled. The warrior grinned despite himself. Tangled, right? Like a ball of quantum wire someone forgot to label. You always did like making life difficult for me. She smirked. And you always did like complaining about it. The small exchange, light though it was, eased the invisible weight pressing against them both. Humor had become a language they understood, a shield against the infinite dangers of galaxies and choices. The council moved, a faction of dissenters trying to leverage the warrior's capture for their own gain. The queen's eyes narrowed, but she did not strike immediately. Instead, she let the warrior step forward, his instincts sharpened by countless battles. I'm guessing diplomacy involves both lasers and sarcasm, he asked, shifting his weight. She arched an eyebrow. Mostly sarcasm. Lasers are optional but recommended. He nodded, a grin tugging at his face. Good. I've been practicing sarcasm for years. The confrontation began. Words flew faster than ships in the upper stratosphere, accusations and counter-accusations bouncing off the walls. Yet amid the verbal dueling, the warrior noticed small openings, moments where subtle maneuvers could tip the balance. He ducked under a hovering council drone that whirred in protest and tossed a small device onto a control panel. Sparks erupted, lights blinked, and the council's carefully constructed plans began to crumble. The queen's ears twitched in approval. Impressive, she said, a note of amusement in her tone. Your unpredictability remains an asset. Thank you, he replied. I try to keep things exciting. Wouldn't want you to get bored ruling the galaxy. She laughed, and for the first time since their reunion, the weight of years and misunderstanding lifted slightly. Together, they navigated the chaos, blending strategy and instinct, humor and precision, until the dissident faction had no choice but to retreat. The council's halls fell silent, save for the soft hum of hovering lights and the occasional clumsy droid. As the dust settled, the queen extended her hand, but not in the formal gesture of command. This was personal. The warrior took it, and in that touch, he felt years of tension and history dissolve into understanding. I never realized, he said quietly, that surviving all that it changes you, not just me but us, I think. Her ears twitched and she nodded. Yes, survival shapes us, and humor is a necessary companion. You have grown, human, not just in skill but in perspective. You see more than survival, you see connection, consequence, responsibility. He smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Perspective, right. I guess all those sarcastic comments were preparation for this moment. She laughed softly, ears flicking as if to catch every note. Perhaps, but your wit is sharper now, tempered by experience, and you understand the gravity of choice. He took a deep breath, feeling for the first time that the weight of the past was not a burden but a guide. Choice, yeah, and apparently timing is hilarious. She shook her head, a soft smile on her lips. Indeed. But sometimes timing is destiny. They stood side by side on the platform, watching the lights of the city shift and pulse. Ships moved like living creatures, and the distant stars reminded them that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and alive. So, he said finally, glancing at her, what now? We part ways, go back to our respective chaos. She shook her head, her long ears tilting gracefully. No, now we choose together. For better or worse, our paths are aligned. And perhaps we can finally act with intention rather than reaction. He nodded slowly. Aligned paths sounds ominous, but in a good way, I hope. She chuckled, a sound that seemed to echo across both space and memory. Ominous can be exhilarating, she said, and exhilarating can be survival. He smirked. Then let's survive together, and maybe, just maybe, enjoy it while we can. As the stars stretched infinitely beyond the platform, and the city below hummed with life and light, they realized that the past, filled with mistakes, laughter, battles, and choices, had led them here, not as adversaries, but as partners in a universe that refused to be simple. The warrior's sarcasm had softened into insight, his instincts tempered by understanding, and the queen's regal authority now held warmth and humor alongside command. For the first time in years, both felt a sense of closure and renewal. The galaxy remained vast and dangerous, but they were no longer defined by mistakes of the past or missed opportunities. They were ready together to navigate what came next, armed with experience, wit, and the knowledge that destiny often had a peculiar sense of humor, but one they could finally face side by side.